Everyone knows that putting the weight on your lead side whilst chipping is really important. But what a lot of people don't do is actually do it. A lot of them, and a lot of you guys end up on your trail foot as you come through the golf ball. So you see my upper body's tilted away from the target and I've got a lot more pressure down on my right toes, okay? There's very minimal pressure on my left side in relation. So one of the things I want to try and work on today is making sure that we keep the weight in the lead side as we start to rotate through. Now I've got one of the coolest measuring devices you'll ever see in your life inside of these shoes. It is the BAL.ON Smart Sensors. Now these things are insoles that go into my shoes to tell me exactly where the pressure is in my feet. So you get real-time analysis as you swing. You can actually set it up on your phone, on your camera, to be playing so you can see the actual shots that correspond with the real-time numbers that you're getting, which, I'll be fair, it blew my mind. Now what we're going to be using this video for is actually using the real-time feedback from the sensors to see where my weight is during the swing. So if I take my setup now, what you'll see, if I've got my weight into my right side, notice where the heat sensor is there. So there's a lot more towards my heel. If I push it in towards my toes, it's all on my back foot. Now what I want to see though is a little bit more weight pushed into my left side. And the right foot has now effectively gone blue. So I've probably got 70% of my weight down my left side. Now if I start to swing, what I want to try and see is a little bit of weight just kind of move into my right side, but I don't want my whole right foot to go red, okay? One thing I don't want to see as well is as I start moving the golf club away, I don't want my left foot to get even redder. I don't want to put more weight in there. So what I'm looking at here for the real-time feedback is that a little bit of weight will move into my right side in the takeaway, but not very much at all. And then I'll keep it more into my lead side on the way through. We're going to get into some numbers shortly, so stay tuned. So when you can see the different percentages on either side, heel to toe, right to left, it's really, really important. But to start with, I'm going to set up, weight into my left side, it moves into my right side ever so slightly, and it stays in my left side throughout impact. So it's giving me that descending angle of attack. Right, so as we can see at setup, I've got 80% of my weight into my lead side, okay? I've got my lower body, just for reference point in terms of setup, I've got my lower body pointing ever so slightly just out towards a target, which when you do that, also just kind of helps you lean into that left side. You'll notice that I've got my feet also slightly flared, and I'd just say slightly flared just left of the golf ball, so that ever so slightly to the left side. So everything is kind of left side orientated and set up in terms of hips, knees and feet. So it also encourages the weight to get across to there as well. What we'll then start to see is I move the golf club back. As I go up towards the kind of halfway point in my swing, I've kind of gone down to like 76, 77% in my left side. So a little bit of weight has just pushed over onto my right side. And that's obviously because I've got my chest, I've got my hips, and I've got my golf club moving away towards my right side. So it's expected that a little bit will get over there. Now, as I start to move back through, two things you're going to notice. In that transition, I go from around 76% all the way as far as 95% on my left side. So throughout that transition, from the top of the swing down to the halfway point, I get into 95% into my left side. And as I come into impact, I'm back at 80%. So that's a real key one, because you see that a lot in the golf swing as well. Typically in a golf swing, you'd have your body weight at the setup position. You'd go up towards the top of the backswing. You would shift the majority of your weight into your lead side. And as you start to then rotate from here, the body weight then starts to even itself out a little bit. With a chip shot, or a pitch shot in this case, it's no different. You see me starting at about 80% on my left side. It goes to 70% at the top of my swing, or kind of 80% as well. Then it pressurizes massively into my lead side at around 95%. And as I start to move back into impact, it goes back down to 80% and then into the low 70s. And then once I start moving up through the impact zone, obviously I'm fully onto my left side. So as a general rule of thumb, it's kind of gone 80, 75, 95, back to 80, finish at 95. So it's always staying on the left side predominantly, but the key thing is as the body's pressuring, then rotating, that rotation starts to help level out the pressure and the weight distribution throughout the swing. Now, if you want to go and buy a BAL.ON golf, then please do so because they are tremendous. The link is down in the description below. If you don't, you've got to start trying to figure out now, how can you feel that weight? Well, first of all, what I would do is a really good drill. First one, lead foot forward, trail foot back. Trail foot's going to go in line with the heel of your lead foot, and you're going to sit into your lead side. Now, as a result of this, you've got a lot more pressure into your lead foot. What you could even do to exaggerate this is just go on your tiptoes of your trail foot and just hit some little chip shots like that. Because what you're doing now is you're getting the sensation that the weight is staying pressurized into your lead side. But one thing that's really important to know and to remember is we still want this coil, we still want this rotation. Still want the hips turning back, still want the chest rotating away, and I still want to try and get my turn into this follow-through position. But what this is doing is making me a lot more balanced into my left side, into my lead side for these chip shots. What the majority of amateurs do is they actually stand a little bit too square onto the golf ball. So feet square and hips square. The issue you get from there, even if you start with your weight into your lead side, which I've got now at 80% on my left, 20% on my right, as I start to move this club away, it's very, very easy to go, I've now gone 65, 35 to my right side, to my trail side. I think often once you've got your hips open and your feet a little bit open, obviously you can still make that move, you can still make that issue, but it's less likely. So if you stand square on, push your weight to your lead side, and then as soon as that golf club pulls away, so does your weight. And then as you get to the transition, you might want to try and move back to your left side, but you've only done so, and you've got just about back to where you started. But then as you start to rotate from here, so after you've made that pressure move and then started to rotate, you'll notice that the weight goes backwards again, just like it did on mine. It goes back towards the center again. And at this point now, my weight distribution is around 60-40 on my left side. But don't forget, we started at 80-20. So I've moved away 20% during the golf swing. At one point, I moved away 30, 50%, and then I managed to gauge back another 20 or 30, and then I lost it again. So with all that movement going on, it's very, very easy to then end up thinning and topping the ball. So this is a really good drill. Like I said, just put the right foot back onto your tiptoe, and then just get that sensation that you're able to hit down onto the golf ball. Still make sure you're accessing your body's rotation in doing so, because it's a really, really key aspect to achieving quality ball striking. So today's tip is just making sure that you've got the weight distribution right, but also throughout that chipping technique, you're starting to see and understand how pressure works during the swing. It's really, really important. If you feel like you've benefited from this and you think your friends could benefit as well, make sure you please do share that video with your friends, and let's get as much of the golfing community understanding this knowledge as soon as possible. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next time.